Okay, this afternoon I'm just going to tie up a sort of a generic small jig. This is a size 12 Hanak H400BL jig hook, and I've got a 3mm copper tungsten bead on here. I'm just going to use nano silk as my tying thread. I'm just going to knock a bit of nano silk on here. We're kind of getting to that time of the year where the trout season is just about over and we're looking towards grayling, so these little deep grayling bugs are going to be really effective for the check nymphing later on in a couple of months' time. Piece of medium copper wire, I'll just knock that in, just wrap in a couple of wraps in here. So it's kind of just a little sort of point fly stalking bug, bit of a pheasant tail really. I'm going to use the Mark Petitjean's magic tool, and I've got a little bit of orange globe right here. Good, a few wraps around there, and then if we just cut through, turn what was just thread into a nice little tag that I can tie in there. So this is little fluorescent tag, so I'm just going to tie that down right down to my tying point. You can hear the nano silk here. I've waxed it. I find it easier to work with if the nano silk is waxed. Okay, I cut the tag off. For the body, just going to use good old pheasant tail, box standard pheasant tail. About 4 or 5 fibres in here. Just hold them out parallel to the stalk, tweak them off. Pull them down, and then fairly gentle touching turns right the way up the body, tying down all the rest of the materials in there. Okay, so I'm going to go one way around with the pheasant tail. I'm going to go anti-clockwise, sort of towards me with the pheasant tail. I don't know why this is, but what I find is if I'm actually tying off soft feather type materials, it's actually quite easy to do that if they're wrapped anti-clockwise and the threads going clockwise. But slippery metals, they always seem to undo far more readily. So I tend to do the pheasant tail anti-clockwise, and then the copper wire the same way as my tying thread. I put a couple of wraps in front and then 3 wraps behind, and I can just work harden that off. Okay. Now I'm going to put a little hot spot in here. Just going to use a tiny bit of this the hen's ice dubbing. Really nice fluorescent stuff is this. I'm going to take a tiny bit of the orange. The rivers I'm fishing in Derbyshire, South Yorkshire, they come off the moors, they're very, very peaty. So kind of keeping the colours something like the peaty colours, the oranges, copper and orange, I think just fits in. So I've done a really shaggy kind of wrap over there, just a little bit of the ice dubbing in the water. That'll just come down to some really nice semi-translucent sort of body over here. Now I'm going to put a hackle in here, good old box standard partridge from in between the wings on the shoulder, and just tear off all the fluff. prepare my hackle. Probably a bit too long those. Come down to some slightly shorter stuff. Okay, so I'll create my little V shape. And I want the curvature over the back of the hook and tie it in just at that little V point there. A few good turns with that. Now I find if your stem is long enough, then I don't need hackle pliers for this. If I pull that up, just damp my fingers, sweep back all of the fibres, and if I keep those in my fingers, I find I can just persuade the hackle around the hook without needing to use pliers and keeping things as reasonably neat. So 4 or 5 turns over the hackle stump. A little bit untidy behind the bead there. If I really wanted to, I could always put a little bit of dubbing just into that groove in there. 2 fingers to finish. Okay, there we go. Just some generic kind of little fluorescent jig